Rodriguez, and today I am here with Allison Carter from Harrison State Law, and this is Pallas Athena podcast. Something that we don't always think about, especially when we're younger, is death itself and everything that aligns with that, whether it's, end of life plans, estate planning, and then having a will or being in a will. We think about our grandparents and parents and loved ones that we might be included in their end of life plans and how that all plays out. And there's a lot of strategy that goes along with that. So that is why I invited you, Allison. So thank you for being here.
Well, I'm really happy to be here, and it's such an important conversation to think about a topic that makes a lot uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be avoided.
Yeah, totally. Death and even like decay, these are things that we kind of shy away from. A lot of people do, but it's such a natural part of life, and it's so normal, and it's like one of the only certain things in life.
Yeah, that's very true.
So it's good to not approach it like it's the scariest thing, but actually it's a very natural thing.
Yeah, and a lot of people think it makes them so uncomfortable. It's become a taboo topic to not talk about grief and death so openly.
Totally. And I think especially in the West, we've kind of disconnected from ritual and community practices around death. And so there's not as much of an emotional processing and a communal practice of grief that we see in a lot of other cultures. And it isn't the way towards health, I think. So it's wonderful that you really specialize in that area, and I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of people who are grieving.
Most of my clients are grieving because they're administering a loved one's estate. So it's a lot of complicated emotions with my clients and dealing with the financial and legal aspects of what happens after somebody dies.
I can imagine it being really grateful to someone like you who can be the level-headed person that's not necessarily like personally connected to the situation, so it's easier to like help sort through the very logistical things and strategic things.
A lot of my clients are just very angry. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of very emotional and appreciative clients that are very thankful for everything that I can do to help them. And there's some people that their very normal and natural reaction to losing a loved one is being so full of anger, and that includes being angry at their probate attorney, because sometimes I give them news about something being more complicated than they hoped it to be and things like that. And I just try to remind myself that I'm dealing with people's worst seasons of life, like losing a parent or a child even.
Stressful.
And then just writing, letting them lead the conversation and writing their emotions. And just, being there for them in the ways that I can.
That's awesome. I don't think, a lot of people can, think of an attorney as, oh, that was someone who's really there for me. But I can see how you would be that person.
Yeah. Grief has never made me uncomfortable, somebody else's grief. So I think it's a pretty natural fit for me to be in this area of law.
That's beautiful. I love that. So one book that I wanted to plug, it's called The Good Death. It is by Suzanne O'Brien. She was an RN. She became a death doula. So a death doula, I think a lot of people are probably familiar with birth doula, that helps someone who's giving birth to a child, offering support and expertise. So a death doula facilitates the whole death process with the person who is dying, making sure that they're comfortable and that they, if there's conversations, that they need things, they're there to help care and support, because, for example, hospice staff is limited in what they can offer as far as services, but a doula will provide extra support. And then they also support the family and the caregivers and that type of thing. So have you had any death doulas involved with people that you've worked with?
Not anybody that I've personally worked with, but I knew of the service being offered. But it's just a lot of death doulas is making sure the person who's dying wishes are honored, because most of the time before you die, if you're dying on hospice, you lose your capacity, and you're either and the process of your body shutting down, so you're not with it, so you can't speak for yourself, or they're giving you, enough medication to make you comfortable. So it's really important, like if you're particular about who you want in the room when you're dying, how you want family members to advocate for you, and then a doula can be less emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, like if you're for sure that you want the max amount of pain medication and benzodiazepines when you're dying, you can't have family intervening saying, like, you're speeding along the process when that's not really how that works.
Mm.
So, like, a doula can be...
To kind of uphold the patient's wishes.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. So one quote from Suzanne O'Brien in the book is, "The way we think about death governs how we feel about it." And that stood out to me because of what we've already discussed, that a lot of people think about death with a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, or just disgust, or different, what we would kind of see as more negative feelings about it. So we think about it that way, and that's the way that we feel, but that can be transformed when we're well educated about it and we feel prepared. So 4 components of a physically good death that she writes about are: number 1, all physical needs for care at the end of life; number 2, all physical needs at the time of death; 3, all physical needs immediately after death; and 4, all physical needs for the disposition of a person's body. And that last point about the disposition of the body brought me to something that I thought was interesting when we're talking about innovation, is green death. And it's like green funeral and burial options. There's actually a movement called Dying to be Green.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think we were chatting a little bit earlier, and you said that you have some experience with that with some of your clients.
Some of my clients have put in their wills that they wish their body to go to a conservation group in Paynes Prairie that buries you as naturally as possible in just a shroud, so you become one with the earth again, rather than any sort of embalming or preservative that would, pollute the ground that you're buried in. And a lot of people are very passionate about having a green burial.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a big topic because the chemicals that are used in embalming are very toxic to the environment, to the soil, and the caskets are not biodegradable, and so they're releasing the varnishes and the different things that are on the casket itself into the ground, and it's definitely not green. And even cremation releases a lot of pollutants into the air. When you think about like people's fillings and stuff that burns, and then that gets released into the atmosphere. So natural burial, what you're talking about, with just like a natural shroud or just no shroud at all, and like a natural wood casket that can be just buried in over time and will become a part of the earth again, is a really beautiful option in my opinion. And there's another one that I thought was super interesting. I'll be honest, like when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, that sounds, I don't know if you've seen Breaking Bad, when they like dissolve the bodies to like...
I think it's a little more green than that.
Because it's called water cremation, where you place the body of the deceased person into a stainless steel box, and then lots of alkaline chemicals that are green dissolve the body, and then the actual dissolution of the body can be used to like fertilize a family garden, or just poured back into the earth in one way. So it's like a nice cycle of something that actually benefits the plant life afterwards. But yeah, it's like, it's just going to dissolve the body. But, that is actually how Desmond Tutu, the Archbishop in South Africa, that was how he was.
That's really great. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So, Allison Carter, Esquire, attorney at law. I wanted to ask you some more general things about estate law. So, estate, and correct me if I say anything that's a little off, but like estate planning is like writing a will, and then once the person has died, the will has to be executed, which delegating all of the person's financial or material assets to those that are included in the will.
Yeah, the technical term for that is called probate, and you go to like a division of the court that's called the probate court.
Okay.
So a will is the original. You can probate a copy of a will, but this is the perfect scenario: is that the original will and the original death certificate is docketed with the probate court, and then somebody petitions the court for an administration of the will, and that's how it all gets started.
Okay. Does it always have to go to court?
Not everybody needs a probate, and that's particular to somebody's circumstances. But if you put like all of like on your financial accounts, beneficiaries on all of them, and you have no assets that need to go through the probate court, then you never have to have your will probated.
Okay.
But there's circumstances where you would still need one.
Okay. So what are some of the most common problems that people have with that time, or with the estate?
So the ones where people aren't necessarily fighting about what the will says, but there's problems with having a will administered, is that a lay person wrote the will and it's improperly executed, improperly witnessed. Like, for example, I have a client who hired me that a family member wrote their loved one's will, and an Ohio notary notarized the will in Florida, which you have to be a Florida notary.
Not valid.
It ended up being valid, but there's it makes it more complicated to probate it. So just doing it without an attorney just makes it a lot harder for your family after you're gone.
Okay. So it's kind of like dotting the I's and crossing the T's correctly can really be important to not have hang-ups later on once you're gone, basically.
Yeah, and there's online programs that like LegalZoom that have wills, but a lot of times even the ones you pay for, like a online legal service, they end up having problems too.
Oh.
Yeah.
If it's not good quality and they don't give direction.
Or it's executed improperly.
Okay. All right, so you talked about how you dealt with some anger of people who are in this stressful time of losing a loved one. So, I had written down, how many times have you had to deal with pissed off people in your profession?
Maybe not on the phone every day, and I'd say most people are, professional with me, but I can tell that they're really upset with having to, go to probate court at all and talk to me at all. I have one client that he's the personal representative, which is what an executive called in Florida, was killed in a really tragic accident where somebody else accidentally killed their loved one. Whoa. And so his uncle was only in middle age. So every single time he calls, he's just really upset. And it's not because he's upset with me or the services I'm providing. He's just really upset that he just lost his loved one in a tragic way, and they didn't have a will. And they also didn't make it easy for them to find the assets because they died so suddenly. So he's tracking down all of his loved ones' financial accounts and storage units across the country. So it's just,
stressful.
It's a very
word that comes to mind.
Yeah, I have empathy for it, because in my family I had 3 close family members die in 2020. My dad was personal representative twice, for 2 at the same time that year, and my poor father was just dealing with the logistical nightmare of being a personal representative. So I try to come from a place of great empathy when a client's being difficult.
Well, that takes a lot of talent, honestly, when somebody's coming at you with that kind of energy. So props to you. I had written this down as just sort of a pop cultural reference. I don't know if you're very familiar with Taylor Swift. I think I've chatted with you.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I have appreciation for her as an artist. She's a great artist, but I'm not necessarily a Swiftie.
So her last album, not her most recent one. Actually, no, I think it was 3 albums ago.
Yeah.
Antihero. Her song.
I've seen the music video.
Okay, so the music video, there's a whole scene of someone has passed away and they're reading the will, And the line in the song is, I have this dream, my daughter-in-law kills me for the money, thinks I left them in the will, the family gathers round and reads it, and someone screams out, she's laughing up at us from hell.
Yeah, that's really funny. You know, it's there's a law in Florida, because this does happen. I wouldn't say it happens often. Is if you murder the person and you're the beneficiary in the will, you're disinherited. And the partner I work for has done.
If they find out. Then what if they like murder
and they get away with it?
They make it look like accidental death or something.
You know, yeah, I mean that is possible,
but
you know,
it's more like a movie plot.
Actually, I have this crazy case right now where we actually think that the defendant might have murdered their mother.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but like that's just like, you know,
it's like way out there.
Yeah, I was like, when the client called saying like, I think my loved one murdered like the person who died, I was like, okay, well, I'm not saying it's impossible, but let's, you know, go through discovery.
Did they like try to open an investigation?
Yes, but it's like very hard to prove. So, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you were caught having murdered a loved one, you would benefit.
Yeah, there's laws like, you know, preventing that, you know. And
yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, have you, I would think maybe sometimes there's some surprises that come up in the will, like people thinking they're going to inherit something and they don't. Have you seen anything like that? I know that's kind of a surprising question, so.
I wouldn't say that's happened to me yet, but I've only been doing probate for a year. I used to be a corporate attorney, and I was not very happy with how not people-y the corporate law was. So I don't have as much experience doing this for a very long time, but I wouldn't say anybody's been shocked. But also, there's no like reading of a will in an attorney's office. Typically, the person who's like the executor or personal representative has the original and hires us, so they know what's in the will. But I'm sure some people that are not our clients are like shocked that they were disinherited. So
I'm sure that gets emotional.
Yes, it does. But we're like the attorney for the person administering the estate, not the beneficiary, so we don't really have to have those hard conversations with the beneficiaries.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So what kinds of setbacks do you experience in your area of law?
It's like a lot of what I specialize is the probate litigation, so the will challenges, and a lot of times when a client hires us, the will has been changed to cut out like all of their children and then benefit just one child. So there's not a lot of information to start off with. So when you file the lawsuit, you think something nefarious happened, but you don't always know. Like if somebody was like exploited to changing their will. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Yeah, so it happens like more often than you would think, is that a caregiver or one child manipulates their older family member.
Like an elder abuse kind of situation.
And there's things you can do about that in the civil and probate court after.
What can you do about that?
So in the probate court, you can challenge a will that was, like fraudulently procured, like somebody manipulated the person with dementia or cognitive decline, or like, you're threatening them to sign a will, and you can challenge it saying that there was undue influence or some other type of wrongdoing that this will came to about. And then if you manipulate somebody to change the beneficiaries on their bank accounts or on their brokerage accounts, you can go to the civil court and challenge that too.
So if someone out there is watching this and you think that could be happening to someone you love, know that you can advocate for that.
Yes,
do something about it.
It's better to do it when your family member is alive, because it's there's people who specialize in exploitation injunctions for like elderly individuals who are alive. So there's laws in Florida protecting vulnerable adults, but what I do is like the exploitation wasn't known until the like grandparent or parent has passed away, and you find this will that just seems crazy. Like, how could they only leave one to this one person only when they've always said they wanted to leave it to all their children?
Yeah, that can be kind of heart-wrenching sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, for the children that are left behind.
Yeah.
So would you be willing to give like a few pieces of advice to just like the average person who is either estate planning or has been written into a will and is inheriting something?
I would say my average piece of advice for young people, because I'm, stereotyping who might be watching this, is if you have young children, like, you don't want to think about your own demise, but if you leave behind like a minor child without an estate plan, it creates a lot of complications for your family. And so it's better to not avoid these hard conversations and face the fact that one day we all die. And so it's important to talk to a professional to have a plan in case of something unexpected happens.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's so like intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so crucial. Like,
Yeah.
Where your kid's gonna go?
Yeah, and there's ways for most people to avoid probate, either through a trust or just in strategic estate planning. Like, there's something called a ladybird deed in Florida. That's basically like putting a beneficiary on a deed. It's a little more complicated than that. It's not the right fit for everybody. But
Like your property?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can put it
like your home?
Yeah, you can put I retain all my rights to my property during my life, but on my death, my house or whatever property transfers to this person.
Okay.
But it's not right for everybody, and you need an attorney to determine if that's the right fit for you.
Okay, so you can't just like write that into your like.
No, it has to be like recorded
Okay.
in like the official records, like a deed, like when you buy a house and you sign the deed or the person, So.
Okay. Interesting. Anything else?
No, I just think it's important that we talk about death and not avoid it, and be there for those who are grieving, and always lean on, like, reach out to the people that are grieving instead of saying like, oh, if they need something, they'll call me. Even if they don't answer, the fact that you're just reaching out to somebody who's going through something hard is so meaningful, even if they don't respond.
Yeah, just to let them know, like, I'm thinking of you, I'm here for you, whether you want to talk or not, and just be present with them.
And keep following up if they don't respond, if they're close.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
So just a couple things about you personally, if you don't mind. Like, I was wondering if you have any career goals for the future.
I just want to get better at what I do, keep learning more about litigation, and keep becoming the best advocate for my clients.
That's awesome. You can tell you really have a passion for what you do.
Yeah, I really do. I feel like I genuinely help people.
It makes a big difference.
I think so.
How can people reach out to you if they want to talk more?
So, I don't have her main line memorized. I'm so bad at phone numbers. But
if you're good with giving out your phone number for your business, we can put it in the show notes.
Yes, and like we're Googleable. Like we're Harrison Estate Law. And my email is Allison, Allison, at harrisonestatelaw.com.
Okay. So are people welcome to reach out to you if they have questions or if they want probate?
Yeah, I can't give like legal advice with just over email if I don't have a consultation, but if somebody needs help, they're always welcome to email me or call the line on Google.
Or hire you.
Yeah, sure.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we close out the show?
No, I'm just like really grateful you invited me. This has been great.
I've loved having you, and I actually like talking about things that are a little bit controversial or taboo, and so something about my Scorpio rising placement like draws me to those topics.
That's great.
But I hope that all of you out there were able to learn something new and understand more about estate planning and about death and preparing for it in general. Again, this is a Pallas Athena podcast, and feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this content. We hope to see you for the next episode.